Hello team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prabh, and today we're going to discuss about NIST Cybersecurity Framework. It is part of my series of GRC, practical series GRC 4, and thanks for giving an amazing response on my GRC previous videos. That basically motivate me to make more videos on that particular section. My name is Prabh Nair. For more information, you can refer my LinkedIn profile. And if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos on a similar topic. So without wasting a time, let's start with the first part. Thank you. So question is, what is the reason I basically come up with this video? See, when you're implementing a cybersecurity in the organization, we have to start from something. Okay. So we have an option. Either we can use our experience, or either we can basically use some industry benchmark, which is a trial and proven methodology. And cybersecurity framework from NIST is one of the effective methodology which a lot of companies follow to implement the cybersecurity program in the organization. I'm sure you heard about the ISO 27001. Okay. So we also have a standards with us. Okay. So it's your choice. If you don't want to go for certifications requirement, then you can go for the frameworks. Or if you have a requirement of certification, then you can go for standard. So thin line difference between the framework and standard is framework is a structure, vague, which can be customized as per your business objective because it doesn't come with any certification liability, whereas standards are come with some kind of a benchmark. It comes with some certification liability. So in this video, I'm going to discuss about how to implement CISF framework or how to implement cybersecurity in the organization with the help of CISF. So NIST cybersecurity framework help an organization, or it basically helps the enterprise to improve the cybersecurity program. See, if I'm joining as a security consultant in any company, I have zero idea about how to start cybersecurity. What is the first step? What is the next step? So CISF basically give me the idea, a step-by-step process by which we can implement cybersecurity in the organization. That is the best thing about this framework. And in this series, I'm going to discuss each and every category, okay, in detail. So each and every video talk about each and every category of each and every function. Okay, I'm not going to finish entire framework in one video. It will be around 20-25 videos where I'm going to discuss about category in detail and how to implement that. So NIST cybersecurity frameworks basically helps the organization to begin and improve the cybersecurity program, and it built off the practice that are known to be effective and helps the organization to improve the cybersecurity posture. This framework has been organized into 5 functions. Option A, identify. Second is called as a protect. Third is called as a detect. Fourth is called as a respond. And fifth is called as a recover. You can see like that entire cybersecurity or information security surround between these 5 programs only. And in this video, we're going to discuss about what is identify and what is asset management and their associate subcategory. And in my further videos, I'm going to discuss about business environment, governance, risk management, supply chain, and other things. Okay. So in this video, we're going to discuss the identify function. And we're also going to discuss about the first function of identify category, which is called as a asset management. Okay. Let's move to the next part. So if you notice here, this is basically the first. This is the framework we are using. Now I have received a lot of queries. Prabh, what is the thin line difference between framework and standard? See, framework is a group of standards. Framework is used to organize multiple standards. Framework is an umbrella. So example, like I want to implement IT governance in the organization. Okay. For running an IT governance in the organization, I want a service management example. I want a security management. I want a quality management. I want a BCP. Now for that, we have a dedicated standard. Like for a service management, we have a standard called 20,000. For security management, we have a 27,001. For quality management, we have a 9,001. For BCP, we have a 22,301. Problem is that each and every standard has their own requirement. It is difficult for me to implement all these requirements on a one page. So what I did, one of the framework, we have a COBIT example. So COBIT basically organize all the process and practice by which we can run the IT governance. It say, boss, adopt my framework. I capture all the necessary requirement to run the IT functions. So it capture all the necessary requirement for information security. It capture all the necessary requirement for service management. It basically capture all the necessary requirement for the BCP. And later on, if you want to make it specialization, make it enhancement, then we can adopt the standard. Okay, as per the framework, system should be protected with the password. System must have a password. But what is the level of password? What is the level of good character of password? For that, we are referring a standard. ISO says this different thing, and NIST says different thing. You understand my requirement? So framework is a logical structure. In Hindi, it is called dhacha, a logical structure. And standard is a way to measure the effectiveness. Standard is basically used for metrics. Standard is like a mapna, okay, measuring something. Okay, I want to buy a random TV for my house. That is a framework. But buying a standard TV with the light, good light quality, good fixtures, good voice quality, good video quality, that is basically the parameter I'm introducing to measure the effectiveness of a quality. That is basically where the standard come into the picture. I can eat normal roti and all that. That's a framework. Because my ultimate goal is to basically control my hunger. But I want to eat one of the standard food like burger and international dishes and all that. That is basically the quality I'm adding by which I'm measuring the quality of the food. So that is what standard is all about. So framework is basically used to organize all the controls. That controls we can take from a different references. So if you can see this diagram, in this diagram you can see the clarity is we're going to cover the identify functions. Okay, under the identify we have a subcategory which is basically called as a asset management. Now question is, in order to start cybersecurity in any organization, first thing we need to know what we have, what we need to protect. And according to NIST, they also have a first step is asset management. If you go by the description, it is clearly said data, personal device, system, facility, enable the organization to achieve the business purpose. Are identify and manage consistent with the relative importance to business objective and organization risk strategy. It means if you want to run any company, we need assets. So first step before protecting anything, we need to know what we need to protect. So it basically have some steps like physical device and systems are within the organizations must be inventoried. Software platforms and application within the organization are inventoried. Organization communication data flow should be mapped. External information systems are cataloged. Resource must be organized. Cybersecurity role need to be defined. So everything talk about asset. Now we have a choice based on my expertise I can implement, or if you want to take some references, they have given the dedicated reference for that. You can see according to ISO 8A.A.1.1, if you implement this control, you actually implementing this. According to the ISO AA.1.2, you are implementing this. So first, with the help of framework, we can able to organize the services. And then if you're looking for a particular standard for the reference, you can refer the standard for the reference also. So that is how we can implement. We'll discuss in detail, but it is just a high level I'm saying. So we have all these controls and their category. Now, if you can see this diagram, let's first understand the definition of identify. In order to protect anything, first we need to know the visibility. First, we need to have a visibility. That is why in the CISF, first step itself is called as a identify. Okay, so organization need to protect their people, their process and technology. But the question is, what are the people, what are the process and what are the technologies we have? Because they are the asset for us. Being able to identify all the assets, business process, compliance requirement, okay, will help the organization to identify the associated vulnerabilities and associated risk, right? So before identifying threat, vulnerability, risk, we need to identify what assets we have. So the first step is called as a identify, where we develop the organization understanding to manage cybersecurity risk to the system, asset, data and capability, and understand the business context, the resource that support the critical functions, their related cybersecurity risk should always a first step. That's why identify is a first step. Now under the identify itself, we have a categories like asset management, business environment, governance, risk assessment, risk management, supply chain. Because if you go by the sequence, function or identify function are the foundation for the effective use of framework. Without understanding the business context, without understanding the assets, you cannot able to protect anything. And NIST CSF understand this very well. That is why the first step in the identify itself is the organizing and managing and maintaining assets. Okay, and then we try to understand the business which basically support the asset, and then we talk about the governance. So that is why in the identify, the first step itself basically talk about the asset management. So if I join as a security officer in any organization, my first step is to identify and document the assets, because until unless I don't identify all your assets, you cannot take a steps to protect them. So organization work to accomplish their mission, business objectives, goals, and provide product and service to their customer, and they use asset in the form of data, service, and everything that need to be documented first. So that is why we're going to cover in this video asset management and their subcategory. So let's discuss their subcategory. Okay, so first category is called as a physical device and system within the organizations are inventoried. If you refer a standard, they will use the word called must be inventoried. It means if I'm basically building a cybersecurity, in the cybersecurity or in the ISMS 27001, they say the first thing is that you need to have an inventory of assets. And NIST CSF also say the same thing. Let me show you with the Excel reference. If you see the Excel sheet, in the Excel sheet also, they say the first step is physical device and systems are within the organization are inventoried. So in this case, if I take a copy paste of this one, which is called ISO 8.1.1 and 8.1.2, it also says the same thing. See, 8.8.1.1 inventory. Any assets associated with the information processing facility need to be identified and managed over the life cycle. So what we need to create a registry or inventory of those assets that put together shown they are managed and controlled based on their importance. Okay. Then they're saying all information asset must have an owner, and asset management ownership can be differentiated to legal ownership. Then third is basically called as an acceptable use of assets, where we talk about the rules of appropriate and function. So they say 8.1.1, 8.1.2. They also say 8.1.1, 8.1.2. They doesn't talk about the acceptable use of assets and return of assets. So you can see specifically they talk about the specific thing. So when we talking about physical device, okay, physical device and system within the organizations are inventoried. What is the parameter for this? See, to protect any asset, organization must have a full understanding of the type of assets, the resources. They have a control. They also need to understand the vulnerabilities of each assets. They also need to know the potential associate risk and business impact of those vulnerability. That is why it is very important for us to know which of those assets are critical, which of the assets are important, and how they are going to be protected. So the first thing is that if you ask me, appropriate and educate operation staffs are assigned to locate and track all the assets, document all the critical infrastructure, network hardware, computing system, physical machines. Okay, so I'm assuming that in that company there is no cybersecurity. Okay, so in this case, what you can do is you can schedule a meeting with the business owner, you can schedule a meeting with the data owner, and understand what is important, understand the vision and mission of an organization, and then try to locate the virtual devices, physical network circuits, staff devices, storage, and everything. And once you identify all these things, document. So you can able to maintain the current inventory of all the information assets, system configurations, interconnections of all the systems. By this, you can able to know all the assets that support the business function and process. Now let's take one example here. Suppose we are running one finance application services, and this basically finance application services generating approx $20,000 per hour. Okay, this is something I got to know after having a first meeting with business owner. Then I identify it is running on the 3 servers. So I need to document this. Then I need to document the configurations. That is also document. Then I need to see what are the other applications running on that. Okay, how they are basically connected with the switch. So switch need to be documented. So this is how you able to get the information. So always follow top-down approach. Start from the management and slowly and gradually move to tactical and the operation team. Okay, so that's why we said operation staff assigned to the inventory of critical infrastructure, network device, and utilize easy to operate database of all the software technologies which is running in the system. If you don't have a time, then we have a lot of automation tool by which you can able to run and detect this information. Now just imagine everything is implemented. Okay, and you want to audit. You want to verify, do they have inventory? So you can prepare some questionnaire. Like you can ask, do we keep a network inventory? If so, what device systems are included in that? how often is your network and inventory is updated, who perform and review the inventory. So by these questions, you will get to know whether they have a appropriate inventory of the systems. Okay. So that is the first requirement, that all the systems need to be inventoried. Now, the second category of the asset management is software, platforms, and application within the organizations are inventoried. See, one is talk about the general device. Now, second is what are the applications running on the device? Because if you're running any application which is not approved one, then it is the biggest threat for the organization. So approved list of software shall be maintained by the IT department, and any request for the software installation that is not included in the approval software list should be removed or required approval from the Chief Information Security Officer. That's why this is how you can able to integrate the change management process. And according to this requirement, you need to also maintain the list of license. So software license inventory shall be also maintained, which basically provide the proof and evidence of the ownership of the software, disk manuals and everything. Okay, so that is something we need to have. Along with that, you can inform the operation staff to try to locate and track, document all the infrastructure, softwares, critical applications that basically support the business. And if you're doing from an audit point of view, you can basically ask, do you have a software inventory? How often is the inventory is updated? How do you detect all the unapproved softwares? What is the tool you're using for that? Do you follow any change management process? Do you have a configuration management process? So that is how you can able to audit and check the process effectiveness. Okay, so make sure first you have a physical device inventory, and then you need to list down all the software applications and their associate category. Okay, let's move to the next part. Now, next important thing is that organization, communication, data flow are mapped. Now, if I go back to the Excel sheet, it is clearly say that organization, communication, data flow, and they talk about the category which is called as a ISO 8A.13.2.1. Okay, so if you go by the reference, it is clearly say that Annexure 8.13.1 about the network security management, and objective is to ensure protection of information in the network and supporting information processing facility. Okay, so 13.1.1, it's a network control. Network must be managed and controlled in order to protect information within the system. Okay, so that is the thing we have. So you need to bear in mind, auditor will looking at this implementing control effectiveness, and we also look for the technical control. Now, before going to understand this requirement, if you can see the sequence, this is sequence. First, we need to have an inventory of devices. Then we need to know the inventory of application, and then we'll see how they exchange the information. So that is the best thing about this framework, right? So here the group of information services, user, information systems, how they are segregated. Do you have VLAN IDs? You can ask for these details. Okay, we can also basically check how the information is basically accessible to the people. Okay, we can ask for the authorization list. We can basically see how the information basically flow we have. We can also determine who has access to the information, who has need to know what information they have, how the information is delivered. If we are running a CRM, okay, how the CRM collecting the information, are we taking a user consent? Okay, how the network segmentation has been defined. Network segmentation is happening on the business level. If we're running a two different business from two different countries, how the segmentation works, we can obtain the network inventory for that. We can obtain the network topology for that. So this is how you can able to ensure the control effectiveness. And if you're thinking from an audit point of view, you can basically ask for the questionnaire like, what is the primary method by which organization communicate internally? If any user connecting with the website, are they using TLS? What type of email system does organization use? What kind of encryption used in an email system? Are sensitive emails are encrypted? Do we have a data classification systems? Okay, whenever any access permission is basically request, who approve that? How often the data flow diagram reviewed and update? Okay, do we have a formal document process of risk analysis? So all these things will be basically part of this category. Now, next category is called as a external information system or catalog. Now, when we're talking about external information system or catalog, it means any computing asset employed by the third party that connect to the computer network or handle internal use communication. Example like we as a company using some cloud services. Okay, so this is basically my internal network where we have a systems, and we have some 3 servers. So server 1, server 2 and server 3, and all these servers are basically connected with my cloud. So this is basically my cloud provider. We don't own anything on this. So what happen is there is always a communication happen. Always a communication happen between the cloud provider servers and these servers. So we need to have an inventory of how many external systems we have, okay, which basically collect and process my data. Okay, or we have a MSSP, managed service security provider. They basically connected with my systems and they're collecting a data because for the monitoring and processing. So what kind of a data the companies is basically collecting, what kind of a data is leaving the organization control. So we need a catalog of that. Is it clear? So we need to have some kind of a document which talk about the list of external system who collecting my data, or along with that we also need to have a policies. Okay, so maintenance and service shall be controlled and conducted by the authorized personnel accordance with the supplier recommended intervals. We need to also have insurance policies and other organization maintenance. And along with that, we can also track organization staff which identify inventory and track update the catalog of externally facing critical infrastructure database if we have. And we also assign to the catalog to the people to make sure whatever the external servers we have, okay, how they get access and everything. And from an audit point of view, okay, from an audit point of view, we can basically ask some question like, do any vendors or external integrations connected to your network? Okay, have you created a list of system and device by which each vendor can access your system? Have you created a list of external information resources like such as LinkedIn, Salesforce, Facebook? And who in your company manage access connectivities? Is there a data flow for the vendors, partner integration? Do you have a vendor reports and all that? Do you have a list of approved vendors? So this is how you can basically ask the question to confirm they have a effective control in place. Next is basically called as a resources. So finally, we done with the inventory of assets. We done with the inventory of applications. We also penned on what are the list of external servers we have. Now, do we have any process by which we prioritize them? We classify them, we categorize them. What is classification? See, we cannot able to give attention to each and every asset with the same level. So we need to identify which one is important, which one is not. Do we have a data classification system? Do we have a data classification policy? Do we have an asset classification policy? So that's something we need to understand. Okay. So if you go by the Excel sheet again, here it is saying resources. And if you see the statement, it is clearly say the resource are prioritized based on their classification, criticality, business value. And for that, we basically follow the ISO 8.2.1.1. So if I go back to slide 8.2.1, it say that information must be classified in terms of legal requirements such as value, criticality, sensitivity. Information classification is one of the key control. Definitely, because until unless we don't classify, we cannot able to protect. Live example, when you go to airport and say my baggage has some critical items, my baggage has a fragile item, please put a fragile sticker on it. So as a baggage owner, you have requested the airline team to put a fragile sticker on that. And that is how they put a fragile sticker, and by which the entire airline system will take care of your bag. So until unless you don't classify, you cannot label it. So classification is basically very important. So all the assets, so as a cybersecurity programmer or as a information security lead, whatever the resources we have inventoried, we have to have a meeting with the asset owners and understand the criticality and sensitivity and create a data classification policy. Because it is not possible for you to go to each and every data owner, business owner to tell them, okay, your business is part of this category, so you need to classify this as a top secret, secret and all that. So we can create a data classification policy in which we can define top secret data is a regulatory data, top secret data is a business data, secret is basically general data, unclassified data is a generic data which is published on a website. So when business owner and data owner create their data, they can refer the policies and according to that they will classify. So from an information security program point of view or information security manager point of view, asset can be categorized based on their physical assets, software assets, information asset, tangible and intangible. And according to this requirement, risk assessment also need to be carried out, because risk assessment for those assets will classify them in terms of criticality and sensitivity. And it will identify and maintain the current log of both individual system credential to know the access right to the information, and according to that we can able to manage the things effectively. Now from an audit point of view, how can we check whether this control in place? We can basically say, we can ask the questionnaires like, is all the network device systems and data is identified? If yes, show me the inventory. Is all the assets are identified as a confidential, private, sensitive, public? You can pick one sample and see that. Is all the assets are classified low, medium, high based on the criticality? We can check that. Is the total business value for each of the asset has been documented? What is the most important for each of the assets which impact from a CIA or authenticity? So this is how you can able to validate, do they have a proper classification system? Okay. Now next is basically called as a cybersecurity roles and responsibility for the entire workforce. Because in asset management, people is also asset. It is good to have a good workforce by which we can able to run the good security. So cybersecurity roles, responsibility for the entire workforce and third party stakeholders need to be established. So as a part of our contractual obligations, employee, contractor, third party users agree and sign the terms and conditions for the employment contract. So we need to maintain the list of skill set. We need to maintain the list of people and their activities, their roles and responsibility, because that is how you can able to document their accountability. So all the management required the employees and where applicable contractors, the third party user to apply the security control. And all the information and asset associated with the information processing system should be owned by the designated part of the owner. So that also need to be documented. So when you establishing the information security program, cybersecurity roles, responsibility must be assigned to each member of the organization, whether it is a third party or internal parties and all that, and make sure it should be mapped with the RACI chart. Now, from an audit point of view, you can ask some questions like, is there any cybersecurity awareness program that cover all the employees? Okay, do you have a training programs based on a skill set? Okay, how the employee report incidents? How the customer report incident? What is the process by which IT communicate incidents and breaches? Do we have an incident response policies? So that is how you can able to validate the cybersecurity skill set. So this is all from the first category of identification, which is a subcategory which is called as a asset management, in which we have a subcategory like create an inventory of softwares, then understand how the data flow happen, document the data flow, then external informations are catalog, then resources and cybersecurity. In my next video, I'm going to discuss the business environment. Do let me know, shall we continue this series? Because one category itself took 27 minutes. So do let me know, shall we continue my next series on business environment? Based on your feedback, I will proceed with the next video. For the time being, good day, take care.